Well, round 5 hasn't happened for me yet, but it has happened for you, and these are my round 6 tips. Let's get straight into it. Saints versus the Bulldogs. The Saints have had a decent start to the year, but just get over the line against a weak Richmond team, whereas the Bulldogs look really good against the Cats. And this week the Bulldogs should beat Essendon, and if they don't, my tip probably changes if St Kilda puts up a good fight against GWS. So I am going to tip the Dogs to get over the line here because they are the better side. Adelaide Essendon. I know Essendon put up a really poor performance against Port Adelaide, but I still think they're a decent side. I think they'll get beat comfortably by the Dogs because the Dogs midfield is always outdo us because Bont is so big and so strong. But I think against Adelaide they'll bounce back and win that game. As we saw last year in that game, we pumped them by 40 points, and it was the last game that Essendon showed up to last year. So yeah. Collingwood Port, this is an interesting game depending on what Port does this round, who they are playing Freo, which should be a bigger test than Essendon, but I am still going to tip Port. I think they are the better side, they've shown more promise, and I'm going to tip them. Carlton GWS, a very interesting matchup here. But I think because it's at Marvel Stadium, I'm going to tip Carlton. I just think it'll be hard for GWS to go over the line. But next game, Brisbane versus the Cats. The Lions are pretty good. In that game against Melbourne last night, I'm recording this on the Friday morning. So I am going to tip Brisbane in this matchup against Geelong. Geelong has a few injuries and it could hurt them. West Coast Freo, it's a simple tip Freo. I don't want to talk about West Coast, but Harley Reid does look good. Sydney Swans have been looking excellent, and off the bye I think Isaac Heaney will tear up the Suns midfield and Sydney will get the win pretty comfortably here. But I do have to acknowledge the Suns have had a pretty hot start here, as they have beaten a few good sides, and Matt Rao and Tuke Miller look back to their best. They're getting back Jared Witt. Everything seems to be coming together, and could they push for the 8? This game will be a indicator, as they're sitting at 2-2, and they've had some decent wins. They've had some decent losses where they didn't get thumped, but they have now lost 2 in a row, and against with them this week, well, for me, in round 5 versus Hawthorn, they should be going in 3-2, and hopefully they can continue that win streak, as they lost to the Giants, which isn't even a bad loss, and they were in that game, and they had the bye before that. But in the second round, they did get beaten by the Dogs pretty comfortably, so we'll just keep an eye on them. But the last game, Hawthorn North Melbourne, this should be a win for the Hawks. North are really exposed in transition. They are the worst team in transition, I think, in 8 years, which is pretty bad. So I'm going to have to tip the Hawks here, as they have shown glimpses, especially against Geelong and Collingwood in the last 2 weeks for me. But if you do like Supercoach, I have a video and my review right here.